we really are a nation of snackers. You highlighted one of the stats there that in the UK and in the US, about 25% of our energy comes from snacks. 75% of the energy that's coming from those snacks is coming from unhealthy snacks. This was taken from the Zoe podcast. In Mediterranean countries, only 14% of energy comes from snacks, which is half of the UK. And 85% of British people report snacking compared to 10% in France. And in the UK, we have 2.5 to 3 snacks per day, which translates to 6 or 7 eating events a day. And this has massive impacts on our glucose spikes and drops throughout the day, causing metabolic chaos. And that's part of what I was thinking as I was thinking about this is, if I'm eating that muffin that you made, which resembles the sort of typical British composition of a snack, it's not necessarily just that snack is going to impact me. It's that my next food choice, because I ate that snack, is going to be different because I might be on a glucose roller coaster here. So I might end up making a worse food choice thereafter, which then might impact maybe my sleep because I've got a little bit of sugar in me when I'm settling down to go to sleep. And is there the sort of downstream domino effect because of that one snack choice?
So I wouldn't say that you've made one bad snack choice and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Your day's over, damn it, you know, you're stuffed. I think that you highlight an important point, though, that what we choose as a meal does have knock-on effects on what might happen later in the day. So, for example, if you have a really refined carbohydrate breakfast or snack, then you're more likely to have a blood sugar dip, which we know from our research is more likely to make you more hungry, eat more calories, have lower mood, have lower energy, and be less alert. But I think, snacking can be used to our advantage. Snacking can be used to our advantage because we know it accounts for such a huge proportion of our energy intake, because we know on average that 70-75% of the snacks that we do currently eat in the UK and the US are not helpful snacks. And because we know that actually just transitioning from those to healthy snacks can have a big impact. But I think it's really important to be thinking about not just the type of snacks you're having, but the time of day that you're having the snacks. And we published some research recently where we looked in 1,000 individuals at people's snacking habits, because it's not actually been looked at much. I mean, you'd think everyone snacks. You'd think that there'd be loads of science out there about snacking. There's lots of science out there about the different, foods that we might snack on, but not really much looking at snacking habits. And there's a lot of controversy out there about whether we should be grazers, and we are a nation of grazers. I certainly graze, but many people we know, like you said, 80 to 90% of people do have multiple eating events throughout the day. Are you taking these away from you for self-control?
I am a little bit, yeah. I think the smell of the chocolate and the cookies is testing me. And in January, I'm not trying to be tested. There we go.
And what we have never really fully understood is snacking per se bad, i.e. having multiple eating events? So eating 6 times a day, which we nearly do in the UK and the US, or is it about the type of food we're snacking on? So should we revert back to having the 3 main meals, the breakfast, the lunch, the dinner? Or is it okay to have multiple meals as long as it's healthy food? So we looked at this in our cohort of 1,000 individuals where we'd taken lots of measures related to what they're eating, when they're eating, how they're eating it, as well as lots of different health outcomes. And what we found was that the frequency of eating within reason was not a problem. So if people were grazing, having multiple eating events, as long as they were eating healthy foods, it didn't matter having multiple eating events. So snacking per se wasn't a problem as long as they were healthy foods.
Okay, because there's been a long, raging debate about how many meals you should have a day.
Yes.
Some people just eat 1 meal a day. Some people probably 5 or 6 meals a day. And you're saying it doesn't necessarily matter as long as what you're eating is healthy.
Yeah, I mean, I will always, as a cautious scientist, caveat it within reason. But our research showed people having 6 eating events a day, i.e., 6 different occasions that they're eating food, or 3 eating events, as long as they were eating or snacking on healthy foods, it did not impact their health outcomes.
And this is, controlled for extreme cases where someone's maybe eating at 1 a.m. in the morning or 2 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, so we also looked at timing, because I think that's something that we haven't given enough attention to in nutrition science, and it's a really exciting new area of research that we're starting to understand. The timing of when we eat is really important. And what we found was, interestingly, 30% of people were snacking after 9 at night. And we found that if you snack late at night,
I feel attacked.
and this is a lot in line with, other published research from very tightly controlled clinical trials, we found that if you snack late at night, that was associated with unfavourable health outcomes. So worse adiposity, so worse kind of fat around your belly, for example, higher levels of inflammation, worse levels of blood lipids, so, cholesterol, that sort of thing. And we found that this was even if you were snacking on healthy snacks.
Really?
And this isn't especially surprising because there's this whole new area in nutrition called chrononutrition, which is all about the timing of eating. And we now are really starting to understand that every cell in our body has its little body clock, has a clock. Every cell has a clock. And that clock is shaped by when we eat as well as the light day cycle. And if we're eating out of sync with those clocks, those millions and trillions of clocks in our body, we know that we process the food slightly differently, we metabolize it slightly differently, and it may have a different impact on our health. And that's what our research showed as well. So eating after 9 o'clock isn't great for your health.
Just to double down on that, I have had a long-standing hypothesis that when I eat later at night, it is basically increasing my belly fat. Now, I don't have any science to support this, but and also the way that I feel when I wake up is radically different if I've eaten close to my sleep time. So I had this weird hypothesis that I'm basically putting food into the machine and then I'm like turning the machine off while it's processing. So it's kind of like not processed it properly.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a simple terms what's sort of happening.
Okay.
Our body needs to rest overnight, just like our mind does. Our cells, our metabolism needs to rest overnight. And if you're not giving your body, your cells, your metabolism, your gut microbiome, etc., that time to rest, things get disturbed a little bit. And what's really interesting is you said that you'll feel different the next day if you eat late at night. There's some really fascinating research that came out about 1 or 2 years ago where they looked at giving exactly the same calories and foods over the day within the same time period, but in one group of individuals having most of the calories earlier and in another group having most of them later in the day. Now, those that were having them later in the day woke up feeling more hungry, which is kind of like counterintuitive, isn't it? But it fits in with what you just said. Yet those people who were eating the calories earlier in the day woke up feeling less hungry. And this is why as well the evidence shows early time-restricted eating. So time-restricted eating where you're eating within a particular time window, those people who are practicing it earlier in the day tend to do better in terms of the health outcomes, whether it's weight, inflammation, cholesterol, than those practicing later time-restricted eating when they have their last eating event later in the day. And that's because they're eating in time with their body clocks, with these millions and billions of little cell clocks.
I have had a weird observation, which is sometimes sort of quite rare these days. I have to wake up super early to get on a flight. And it means that I'm disrupting my sleep, maybe getting up at 4 or 5 in the morning. And for some bizarre reason, if I wake up at, say, 4 in the morning to go and get a flight, I am starving. But if I woke up at 9 that same day, I would probably not get hungry till about 2 p.m. And I've never managed to sort of really figure out why disrupting my sleep causes me to be ridiculously hungry, whereas typically I don't honestly eat breakfast. I typically eat about midday or 2 p.m.
So I think there's probably a lot going on there. It's getting a little bit outside my area of expertise, but I can certainly comment from work that we've done and that I'm familiar with. So what we know is that sleep duration, sleep efficiency, what we also call sleep midpoint, so the midpoint at which you sleep, impacts your hunger levels. We know that your hunger and your fullness hormones change as you sleep. So we know that short sleepers, people who, are getting up too early, so when you're getting up for your flight, then your hunger and fullness hormones might be perturbed. And we know that short sleepers, or if you've had a poor night's sleep, you tend to wake up more hungry than if you've had a good night's sleep. This isn't from my own research, I always have to caveat that, but this is what some of the research is showing. But that also, if you've had a poor night's sleep, you reach for less healthy food. And there's a study that was conducted at King's College London by my colleagues called the Slumber Study. And this really nicely illustrates how just changing how much you sleep can change your dietary choices. And in the Slumber Study, they asked people who were short sleepers to practice sleep hygiene. They gave them no dietary advice. They just said, practice good sleep hygiene, i.e., no screens late at night, no physical activity, caffeine, alcohol, etc. late at night, darkened room. And then they just monitored lots of different things in these individuals. And what they found was that those who were able to extend their sleep actually made healthier choices, such that they reduced, without being told to, their intake of free sugar by about 10 grams.
Oh, really?
Without being given any advice.
So they slept better, they ate less sugar. They made the decision to eat less sugar.
Without being told to.
This is the most crazy stat you'll ever hear. 93.3% of you that watch this channel frequently haven't yet hit the subscribe button. So if you liked this clip and if you like what we do here, please can you do me a favor and hit that subscribe button? And in return, I promise you, I will do everything I can from now until forever to make this channel better and better and better. Thank you.